Okay, so let's talk about Past Lives, the directorial debut of Celine Song. And Celine Song brings us one of the most intimate and very delicate, but at the same time very strong debuts I think we've gotten in a long time from any filmmaker. The film comes from A24 and follows two childhood sweethearts from Korea, Na Young and Hae Sung, as we follow the story of Na Young's family immigrating from Korea to Canada. And what basically happens here is the two friends who grew up together and almost had this sort of inseparable bond, it seemed, are separated due to circumstance in life. We finally see that years later, 12 years to be exact, they finally reconnect over Skype after Na Young, who now goes by Nora, starts to look up people she knew from Korea, comes across a post from Hae Sung asking about her and if anybody knows how he can come in contact with her. And it feels like things pick up right where they left off when they were kids, and they seem to be starting to have this bond over again as they do these multiple Skype calls throughout the day and try to just have that connection they had before. Ultimately, however, it is not ideal as it seemed in the beginning with the time zone differences and the busy lifestyles both of them have. As Nora wants to be a writer, and we see that Hae Sung is trying to be an engineer, possibly moving to China, and we see that things just are starting to get a little bit too much for Nora, who says maybe they should take a break. And we see that Hae Sung is kind of not really wanting to do this. They had planned to see each other in maybe a year and a half, with Hae Sung going to New York and also with Nora possibly going over to Korea, but they say let's take a little break, I'm doing this artist residency and then we'll get back to it. This is what Nora tells Hae Sung. Hae Sung is like, whatever, let's do it. Ultimately, though, however, Nora meets her now husband at this artist residency, Arthur, and we see that Hae Sung meets somebody as well as he is going for his engineering degree. 12 years later pass, and now Nora is married to Arthur. She is now a playwright. Arthur is an author, and we see that Hae Sung will be coming to New York to visit Nora, but he's saying it's just for vacation, and Arthur's like, he's coming to visit you, obviously. So it's kind of bothering Arthur in a way, but Nora says that Arthur has nothing to worry about, and we see that when they have their first meeting, Hae Sung and Nora, it feels like nothing has changed for them from that previous Skype call or when they were young kids, and we see that Hae Sung has definitely these feelings for Nora, and these feelings of regret and what if, like wonder, and he was really starting to feel this, especially knowing that Nora married and all of that, and he just wonders what would have happened if they hadn't taken that break, if he had come to visit sooner, all of that. And we see that Nora is starting to think about this as well, and also talks to Arthur about her feelings with Hae Sung being a Korean American now, and Hae Sung of course just being Korean. There is this sort of cultural difference with values and all of that, and it's starting to sort of make her wonder about her own experience as an immigrant here. The next day, before Hae Sung leaves, Arthur, Nora, and Hae Sung all go out to dinner. They go have drinks, and this is where things start to really unravel about what the feelings for Nora and Hae Sung really are between each other. As Hae Sung talks about past lives, and Inyon is something we have been talking about throughout the whole movie, about destiny and fate between strangers, that maybe in past lives they were something else, and in this life maybe it's just a stranger you see out in the street, somebody that you meet only once and you never see again, but they are sort of interconnected to you in the larger scale of the universe. And so Hae Sung wonders if they were maybe lovers in a past life, or this is just one past life where they might end up together. Ultimately, Hae Sung apologizes to Arthur for all of this, and Arthur even says that they probably are Indian as well. And we see that the night when Hae Sung is leaving, as Nora walks into his Uber, they share a moment, and a moment of wonder of what is going to happen now. Like, are we going to see Nora and Hae Sung kiss? Is this really how it's going to end? Is he gone forever? Before we can get any answers, we get the final conclusiveness that this is it. We see the Uber pull up, Hae Sung leaves, but before he does, he asks Nora, is it possible that this is a past life and we might be together in a future life? To which Nora says, I don't know. And he says he doesn't know either. We see Nora go back to Arthur, and we see her immediately break down and cry as we see Hae Sung as well leave back to Korea. So this is definitely a gut-wrenching ending that feels so raw, and I think it definitely goes back to our decisions always have many what-ifs and past lives attached to them as well, because this movie really explores mourning for those scenarios of what could have been. And in the case of Nora and Hae Sung, there were several choices that were definitely out of their control that led them to this final moment we see in the film. The move to Canada from Korea from her family was a big one because, of course, that was where it ultimately separated them at first. And also Nora and the artist residency and Hae Sung and pursuing his engineering degree, both of those things separated them a little bit more for those extra 12 years as well. Because during this residency, that is when Nora met Arthur, and during this time pursuing his engineering degree, that is when Hae Sung met his girlfriend as well. So all of these factors sort of kept pushing them away from one another. We had just heard Nora and Hae Sung talk about visiting each other a year later, back before they took the residency and pursuing a degree, but of course that year later turned into 12 years until they would finally meet for the first time in 24 years. And I think that always is a thing with past lives, was that it asks, what did those changes really do though? However, did it make them feel this bond closer to them when they finally meet again, or was this ultimately what separated them from never being together? And I think that final part and that moment in past lives is so heartbreaking, because it's that final moment that you see that they both long for each other, but they realize that they've made choices for their lives that will definitely impede that. Nora talks to Arthur also about the cultural and value differences both of them have, and I think that's definitely something that we see a lot in an immigrant as well, and anybody who is a child of an immigrant or immigrant themselves, is you feel this sort of disconnect between both cultures that you are in. That this is also not just a love story in the way that the movie is being projected, but also can be seen as an immigrant story about coping with being an immigrant and also trying to assimilate, but at the same time not feeling one way or the other about both cultures. Nora says this to Arthur, that she feels less Korean when she is around Hae Sung because he has these very Korean values, these very Korean roots, and herself, she may have grown up there as a child, but most of her life has been spent out of Korea, so she definitely feels this sort of disconnect to some of the things that Hae Sung talks about, especially when it comes to, I think, marriage, love, values, and all of that. They are vastly different in how they view the world, and I think that definitely is something that she kind of feels a little saddened about, that her values are more, I would say, Western than they are Eastern, compared to her family or to Hae Sung. And so I think that's definitely an interesting aspect that the film does explore as well, besides the love story. I think Inyan is a very interesting thing as well, because it is not just an idea that is, as Nora says, a way to sort of connect with people you just met, but also may just be a way for her and Hae Sung to cope with the idea that they won't have this love in this life together that goes beyond just this friendship, but maybe in another life they might. So it's sort of a coping for both of them in a way, to see this way of thinking that Inyan means that they may be together in another life, and it's not going to happen in this one. And I thought the idea for this movie as well, it's interesting to note that Celine Song says that the idea came to her during a real life meetup at a bar she had with a childhood crush of hers and her now husband, and she was just going back and forth trying to translate for both of them, but at the same time also saw the differences in culture and values between each of them. And I think that really showcases herself as well, sort of having both of these Korean values and these also American values, and she is sort of struggling between both, because at times she can feel more Korean, at times she can feel more American, and at times she can feel like neither of them and doesn't know where to really belong. And like I said, a lot of immigrants struggle, I think, with that, with also trying to just assimilate somewhere. But overall, I think the most heartbreaking thing about this is the idea that we choose our decisions and we don't know at the time whether they are the right decisions or not, and that definitely does affect us to a point, because we are left then just wondering, did we make the right choice? What if we went this way? What if we went that way? What if we didn't end that friendship? What if we continued that relationship? Would we be where we are today? And will the people in our lives that are in it right now ever understand how much those relationships meant to us, and would that hurt them to think about it that way as well? And I think that's something that Nora sees as well with Arthur, because Hae Sung is such an important part for her life that she just can't let go of that. But at the same time, how does it look towards Arthur seeing this and thinking she feels this way about this guy, but it's not really that way, right? It's more holding on to those memories as well, which is something she tells to Hae Sung as well at the end of the movie, is that you have this idea of me that's very different from who I am today. That was 24 years ago, but at the same time, it is important that you never let that go and cherish it, because that person is not me anymore, but I used to be that person. And he even says that maybe if she had stayed in Korea, maybe if she had been there his whole life with him, would he have still loved her the same right now? Because what he loves about her is her aspirations, her sort of determination to do all of these great things, and would she have done the same if she was in Korea? So I think that's definitely an interesting thing about it as well, is maybe the reason he feels this sort of attachment and love towards Nora is because she is being the person she is, and the only way she could have been that person was by leaving. So it definitely is interesting to note there. And I think it's such a great look at Nora that we see from 12 years old, 24, and 36, that she has changed a lot as well throughout in her ideas. And just talking about the different prizes she wanted to win, I think showcases who she is becoming, because at first it's the Nobel Prize, and then it's the Pulitzer, and now it's a Tony. So I think that's just one of the small cases where you see how much she has changed over the years. But at the end of the day, I think Hae Sung and Nora are just left with the feeling of knowing the right person at the wrong time, and at the end both come to that realization when they just say, we don't know if we'll ever be together, right? They're perhaps soulmates, as Arthur has said in the film, but the circumstances of life and fate just weren't there for them. A definite crushing ending, but Nora and Hae Sung's farewell is as heartbreaking as it is peaceful as well, because I think they both finally let go of that wonder and realize what life is, and just decide they're going to keep continuing on with their lives. I think the feeling of wonder has been laid to rest with both of them, and they now realize they're in different parts of their own life and have to continue that way. But that doesn't mean that they can't cherish the life they could have and had before as well, and just be happy that they are in each other's lives in some way. And who knows, maybe in another life things could be different, but if you're stuck in wonder, when do you really live? And I think that's such a great way to end the video. Just my thoughts and opinions on the movie and its ending and what I possibly took away from it. If you took away something else, really would love to hear it in the comments. I think there are many layers to the film and not just a love story, like I said, and I really do want to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions. But we could do more of these video essays if y'all want, with other movies as well, that even ones I've already done in the past, where we can get deeper into it. So let me know in the comments below if that's something you want to see. And as always, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers, less than 2,000 to go from that, I believe. So super excited about that. And I'll see all of you next time. As always, stay safe, stay positive.